Did you know that the old masters never retouched their images? Hey everyone, Stephan here. I hope you're doing well. So let's talk about this thing, film, negative to print. The old masters never retouched their images? Wrong. Of course they did, especially when it comes to dodging and burning. They knew what they were doing, and I will show you a few examples in a moment, and you'll see that retouching is not anything Photoshop related. That's just a tool that we use nowadays, but it has been done for a very long time. Where is this all coming from? A couple of weeks ago, I taught a workshop, and during lunchtime, we had that conversation about is Photoshop going too far, and one of my students claimed that the old masters knew everything and they got everything perfect in camera, which of course is not true. It's absolutely not true. They use techniques that we are using now in the digital realm in the analog realm. And as the conversation continued, I realized that most of my students don't actually know how it was done back in the days. So here's a little video to explain how this dodging and burning, how all of that worked in the darkroom. And not to go too deep, I will not go into crystals and chemicals and all that beautiful stuff. There are tons of videos on the World Wide Web where you can really deep dive if you want to. But to give you sort of a baseline understanding of how it was done, I thought it's a good idea. Well, how about we jump in? Here is a good example. This is a photo taken in '54 of Audrey Hepburn by Dennis Stock. By the way, the images that I show you right now, they're from the Magnum website, and I highly recommend to spend a good amount of time on their website. Have a look through the incredible work that they have, and maybe you even find one of those rare prints for your own wall. But anyway, let's go back to this photo by Dennis Stock of Audrey Hepburn. This is the final image, but do you think that's how it was in camera? No. This is a test print with all the little squiggles and remarks by the photographer what he wants to change for the final print, which parts to darken, burn, and which parts to lighten, dodge. Hence, if you just know it in Photoshop, dodge and burn, well, it was done in the darkroom. To go to another image, this is by Thomas Hoepker, 1966 of Ali. The final image. And here are the squiggles, what to dodge, what to burn, long time before Photoshop. And as you know, I'm into ballet photography, so let's have a look at a photo by Capa. This is the final scene, and here the test print with all the remarks for the darkroom. Why not add one more? Andy Warhol photographed in New York in '65. Looks great. And here, all the remarks of which parts to lighten, to dodge, which parts to darken, to burn. So as you can see, nothing new. Dodging and burning has been done for a very long time. But how does it actually work? So if you put a film in your beautiful old analog camera, you're just exposing the film, and now it has to be developed to turn into a negative. So you will either create your own darkroom, have your chemicals and know what you're doing, or you send it out to a lab and they will send back the negative. So from the negative, there's really two ways how it can be printed. A, it will be printed from the negative through an enlarger straight onto a print, or it will be scanned and printed from the scanner. Nowadays, in most cases, if you send in those babies to a lab, they will develop the film, and then they will send it through the scanner and print straight from the scanner. Unless on the form you tick that you also want digital files, and so from the development to the negative to the scanner onto a digital file, which they will send you. But there is this other way. I keep this very basic. You take your negative, you put it into an enlarger. The enlarger projects that image onto photosensitive paper. And the longer that paper gets light, the brighter the image will be. And the less you are exposing it, the darker it will be. And while you expose the paper, you take a stick, put anything on top, a gobo, anything you want, and put it over those areas where you don't want the light to hit. So the longer the exposure, the brighter it is. You hide certain areas like the sky, and that sky will not be exposed as much as maybe the foreground. But we need to have a baseline, and that baseline is actually done really, really simply. You do a test print and you just hide part of the paper. You hide that 3, 4, 5 times, so have in the same photo 4 or 5 different exposures, and then you pick the base exposure that you like. And once you have that, you use all the little gobos, the different shapes, and you time it. So everything is down to the second. And that's how simple it is. At least it sounds a lot simpler than it really is, because you have to be very experienced to make sure that you have the timing perfect and get just those areas that you want. But nevertheless, it's physics. It's relatively straightforward. The interesting thing is, if you look at prints from these old masters, every print is slightly different. No matter how good the person is who does it, there will always be a little bit of a nuance because it is done manually. And that is just yet another reason why analog and those prints are so special. And if you think, okay, well, yeah, they lightened certain parts and darkened certain parts, fair enough. But at least the photojournalists didn't change anything. That is wrong too. That is wrong too. I will not do a whole video about it. But you know what? Here's an idea. If you go back and have a look at some of my videos, one of them is called, I think, Is Lens Compression a Myth? Something like that. Have a look at that. Let's say we have this scene and we have these children and they're holding hands and they're walking into their future and it's all beautiful. And behind them is an old tank. It doesn't even work. It's just sitting there, museum piece. That's how it looks like when you shoot it with a wide-angle lens. The moment, however, you change that lens, let's say you replace the 24mm with a 600mm. Did we retouch it? No. Did we change anything in the image? No. Did we still change the narrative dramatically? Yes. It's not retouched, but it's still manipulating the viewer. There you go. Well, here's another beautiful image. This is, again, going back to Danish stock. This is a photo taken in 1955 of James Dean, just to show you one more. And here are the squiggles. Again, all the instructions, plus, minus, more exposure, less exposure. Just think about the test print and the different areas that we saw, and it produces the final amazing image. And that's really it. Quite simple when you think about it. Well, not so simple to actually do it. You have to be quite experienced, but in principle, it's pretty straightforward. Next week, we go one step further in terms of retouching and image creation. I'm talking about AI. Until then, I say the same thing always. Do me the favor, give me a thumbs up. The algorithm will love you. Maybe even leave a comment. If you just say hello, that will already do. Or if you have a suggestion for something I should cover, please do so as well. Anyway, I hope to see you next week. Go out and create something awesome.